And we're live. Okay.
And we're live.
I was going to say,
Cheers.
I was waiting to say this. Oh, yes. Cheers. We're so cute. We're both wearing stripes and we both have orange drinks.
Oh my gosh. Or really, we should say pink.
Oh, yeah. I guess it's pink. Okay.
Wait, or do you have rosé?
No, it's like peach wine. It's basically sugar.
That's a real thing, though, like in France, I think.
It's really good.
There's all kinds of wine.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and tweet out
that we're live. Did anyone respond to the original post?
I think like a few people. Oh, there's somebody here. Hello. Welcome to Book Club Happy Hour.
Cheers. Oh, like cheers, everybody, as they cheers.
Here's my extra full glass of wine because it's been one of those days.
Nice. Yeah, you've done some physical labor today.
Yeah.
Moving is a workout.
It really is. And we literally cleaned out 2 of our closets. So I feel great.
Nice. Let's see. Oh yeah, I retweeted it. Okay. Maybe I'll oh, I can't undo retweet. So we're live. Hashtag, what are you calling it? Yang Gang Book. Do I have my book? Oh, yeah, I have my book. Okay. Club. And then
hey guys, another person has joined. What's up? Welcome to Happy Hour.
Cheers.
Drop a comment to say hello.
Yes, so we know who's here. Okay. Tweet. Officially live. On today's programming, we have our check-in with the book. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm live.
And, guys, I promise eventually we'll get the hang of this.
Yeah. It's part of our charm right now, right?
Totally.
I just don't know what we're doing. It's so cute. Okay. So we want to do this as a way to have Takesha. Hey, girl. Thanks for saying hi. We want to do this as a way to, we realized that with the super awesome meeting we had for discussing MAID, that things can get heavy and deep and dark. And it might be nice to have a moment where we could sure check in on the reading, but really just get to know each other. And talk about other things besides books, because we actually like other things besides books, believe it or not, and have fun and drink.
Yes, drinking is.
So if you don't drink, BYOB. I do drink, but I happen to have opened this, so I'm going to drink this for now. So if you don't drink,
that's okay. Water is also great.
Water's, yeah.
Yes. So I'm going
to be hydrating.
Yeah, drink some water right now. If you haven't drank any water today, drink some water.
Bodily functions. Don't get sick. Cool. So if you all could, we have 4 people. Awesome. If you all could say hi and let us know, are you reading The War on Normal People? So good at this. By Andrew Yang. Are you reading it? How's it going? Do you like it?
yes, are you reading it, the book copy, or are you listening to the audiobook?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I know personally, I have just been reading the book copy, and it's so dense, like in a good way. It's almost like
Yeah.
you know all of the information is going to be good, and so you just want to soak it all up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but you said listening to the audiobook first was helpful.
Yeah, so I listened to the audiobook on YouTube. And I started it like actually during the campaign. I started it a while ago. And I'm obviously a huge reader. I was so like enthralled and my whole life was taken up by the campaign that I kind of stopped reading. And so like for a while, the audiobook was one of the few things I was reading, but I was getting through it really slowly. And then picked it back up and like didn't pick up for even longer because I knew we'd be reading it this month. So then when it came time to read it, then I picked up the audiobook and started getting through it a lot faster and finished it. And so that made it actually a lot easier to get through the like kind of dense parts of this because you understand the big picture already going into it. Re-listening
To the audio version.
to the audio version of it. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's cool. How are you liking the re-listening?
I need to just do that. But I guess I think one of the things, I'm just going to keep picking up my wine and putting it back down as I talk.
Yeah.
Go to drink. Actually, I thought of something. Never mind. But I think one of the most interesting parts of the book so far is the introduction. It's so interesting. I don't know. It really. I got a lot of my favorite quotes so far from the introduction.
Yeah.
Takesha said, I listened to audiobook. I use Andrew's voice as a stress reliever. I think we all do.
How do you guys like his narration? I listen to audiobooks pretty frequently, and so I have like usually I have pretty high standards. Like I will definitely listen to the sample of an audiobook before I buy it. And so sometimes like it's really cool when authors read their own audiobooks, but other times I'm like, okay, this person doesn't really know what they're doing. But I like Andrew's narration because it's like he just does a good job. Ellars is here. It's like a user manual for his campaign policies. That is so true. I was honestly surprised. Like there's some things he says in here. For instance, the fact that he calls it the freedom dividend in the book and like has the whole VAT tax thing laid out. And I like would have assumed that was done after the book happened. Like I almost wondered if they went back and added it, but I don't think they did. So yeah, definitely was interesting how like having been listening to the stump speech on like Zach and Matt show and stuff like that quite a few times, how much of all of that is in this book.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I remember you even said that when you were doing phone banking for him, you would just automatically say, hey, read the book.
I guess that's like I've only really said that when I did that was a while ago when I did the Mindful Skeptics podcast. I kind of mentioned that. So that's something you guys might want to know is that a big reason why I had the idea in the first place, this was before I had met Megan, was that when I was like calling into New Hampshire, I was like kind of convincing people and yanking people in a way by telling them about the book. And then that after the campaign ended, that was like one of the ideas. I was like, a book club. So yeah. Fun fact, Yang Gang Book Club trivia.
Yeah. Also, one of the things I really enjoy about the book right now, I was telling Kateri earlier, I feel like I'm having to process so much information from so many different places right now that I'm having to tell everybody, explain it to me like I'm 5. really, because, and I feel like
You just
Andrew,
texted me that.
yes, and I feel like Andrew, in a way, in his book, he talks to you like you don't know what he's talking about, and like I enjoy that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because I need that.
Thanks.
I do.
Yeah.
I need that. So I do appreciate that he does make it very easy to read, and easy to understand.
Yes. So I was looking at Ellers' comments. What does Eli 5 mean?
Explain it like I'm 5.
Oh my god. Oh, I'm
Is
gonna
that
embarrass myself so bad. I don't know so many of those things. Like, it wasn't even that long ago. I was like, "What's an AMA?" Like, asked my
oh yeah,
boyfriend.
I think you actually
Or when I
said,
asked you.
hey, I think you were like, I'm gonna do an ask me anything on my Twitter, and I said, oh, like an AMA, and you were like, what does that mean?
Did I really do that?
Yeah.
I'm such a granny. Oh my god. Oh, I'm gonna embarrass myself so many times in this
Don't.
when we do live shows and stuff, because I'm so not. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The
I'm
worst
not on the
millennial
Reddit.
ever.
I'm not on the Reddit scene.
Oh yeah, my boyfriend's like super on Reddit, so he knows all of them. And he's like older than me, and he like teaches young kids, and he like knows all of their shit, like all of the, like they can't get anything past him. It's funny, so I go to him. My dudes.
Cool. I wouldn't even have to see Greg's name on there to know that was him.
Really?
If I just saw the comment, I would be like, I know who that person
is. That's great. I was gonna say something though. We were talking about the book for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say like the book easily could have been like so much more highbrow and so much more like just not accessible. So it's like it definitely makes sense that he wrote it the way he did.
And I feel like that kind of segues into what he says about normal people, right? When he's explaining what he means by normal people, is that he says the average American isn't college educated. And so with that in mind, it would make sense then that he wouldn't make his book hard to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. He literally says at one point, you might have not gotten to it yet, I think it is later, like, if you're reading this, you're probably college educated. And I was like, whoa, like that's kind of crazy that he would make that assumption. I literally
went, oh my God, yes. What?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's like kind of ballsy, I guess, but at the same time, it's like, honestly, like he's right. Like, you know, like it's like kind of a sad thing to like acknowledge, but it's kind of true. Like the thing is that I'm like in California, and I realized that reading this book, I've spent very, very little time, maybe no time in proper like Central North America. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, there is a bubble out here in California. Like most of my friends are college educated in California. I mean, all my close friends are all college educated. Like I don't have any close friends that are not college educated.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean,
but I can
same.
see
like
that.
I'm on the East Coast, and I grew up in Maryland, and Maryland has a ton of great universities. And we lived near DC, so like again, DC has great universities. My brother-in-law lives in Providence, so he's right near a lot of Ivy Leagues there. And so literally like I've kind of grown up in that bubble too. And even my friends who don't have like bachelor's degrees at least have associate's degrees. Like they've done some college of some form.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely was in that bubble too.
Yeah. Half of my family is in New Mexico, so it's not central, but New Mexico is not California. And so I have one relative who has a BA, and then I guess my uncle, he was a teacher for a long time. So he obviously, I mean, he went through like the military, so I don't know, but he's got to be credentialed or something. But then that's 2 relatives, and I have a pretty big family, and then my extended family is even bigger. So I'm like, yeah, if I think about it that way, it's like half my family in California, all of them college educated. In fact, most of them work at colleges. They're not professors, but they work at, because we have the UC system.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other half of my family is in New Mexico, and it's actually a big difference. It's like, I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah, his book is very thought-provoking. I feel like that's almost why it's kind of dense to get through, is because I'm having to think about everything he reads because it's so thought-provoking. So I'll read something and I think of something else, and I'm like, oh, that really applies to this.
Yeah.
And what's going on
it's
now.
not that long. And the chapters are like not that long, and then you see like, oh, there's pictures, oh, that makes it shorter, oh yeah, like not that long of a chapter, but it's full of notes, so I know this took me a long time to read. Greg says, I listened to the audio version of the first chapter and it was really interesting. Somewhat wish I could hear more about Andrew's backstory. Oh yeah, it's true, because it's like it goes into his backstory, his parents, a little bit about his high school experience.
Yeah, it's almost like he wanted to talk about it a little bit, but he still isn't like able to talk about it too much. Like he was kind of like, oh, I was bullied, but then didn't really say much else.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's not that book. And then second of all, it's a big deal it's an undertaking to write about your family. Like, we kind of like, we pick up people's memoirs all the time and we're like used to reality TV and stuff like that, but like I'm trying to write about some basically memoir. And then I just like started doing it like, oh, like this is I have something like I have a story to tell. And then you start doing it and you're like, wait, everyone's going to read this? Oh shit. Like,
yeah. And I think
is that fair to them? Like,
yeah. And it's not just that, it takes a lot out of you. I mean, I've even told you, like, I've been wanting to write, but I think the story, I mean, you've heard some of my story, but the story I have to tell, I feel like is so raw and like personal, and not just with me, but with my family too, is that it's like sitting down to write it and actually get the words out is such a huge, like, mental and emotional undertaking.
Yes. And then to do it consistently, because if you want to get something done, you've got to do it like every day. As far as writing goes, and it's like, that's people who write memoir are legit. They're legit people. They're hardcore.
For sure.
But yeah, I agree. I wish we could hear more about Andrew's backstory, and we'll learn more. Like, he shares stuff, but this wasn't like the place to do it, really. And he wants to write a book about being on the trail and other people's stories. So I wonder if he'd write some of his own stories, I guess. I don't know. Also helps that he has two little boys, so that probably helps. Helps with what?
I feel like you typed that when we were on a whole different topic. Kateri and I switched topics kind of fast. Not on purpose.
Yeah. We're all over the place.
Okay,
so I see we have 6 people. If you can, say hi. Tell us what you're reading. Tell us what you're drinking. Tell us if you're reading this book or not. I feel like you can make like a whole compilation of like Kateri fails to get the freaking book in the frame.
Because I already have issues with my left and my right. Like, I get them switched up. And it's especially weird looking at this right now. Everything moves nearer. And so it's so hard. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm trying to get in the center frame and I don't know which way I need to move.
Yeah. I'm trying to.
Has a question. What's your favorite graph from the book?
I'm not the person to ask that question.
So I don't know if you've been here before. Kateri and I have badasses in English. So we
need to stop cracking up at that joke though. Like, people are gonna like.
We have bachelor's of arts in English, and Take two. Okay. No, but for real, we both have degrees in English. And so with that, I don't personally have like the math and science mindset. So I can look at the graph and appreciate the work that went into it. But I also enjoy that he explains the graphs a little bit too.
I'm like, no, I get it. Okay, it matches.
That's a really pretty
right.
picture.
So that's nice. Okay, then let's move on. That's about to the extent to which. Well,
and the thing is, I have taken a statistics course before, and I am going into the public health field, so I'm going to have to learn. And so I do try for like a minute to read the graph. But I wouldn't say I have a favorite. What is your favorite?
Yes, that's the question we should ask.
Yeah, Ellars,
page 119.
119.
I'm on it.
Ellars, you're our hero.
There. Geography of Destiny. Of Destiny. Geography of Destiny. That's book 2. Geography is Destiny. I really liked this chapter. I think this is the chapter. Yeah, I thought this was a really interesting chapter. Should we try to put it up? Oh, I shouldn't try. I really should not try. Which side is it?
Kind of see it, yeah.
But can you even read it? Is there any purpose? Is there any point?
No, I can't read it.
Okay, there's no point. I tried, guys. It says number of net new businesses. So the closest underlining I have to it says in part because regions have been diverging so sharply. The U.S. economy has become dramatically less dynamic the last 4 years. So I think this is just when he's talking about how like it's like back to the intro where he's like he loves the underdog. And so I think part of a big reason why he really cares so much about this is that he loves like the scrappy underdog entrepreneur over the like corporate like, oh look, I found out based on these insider numbers. I don't really know if this is how it works. I'm just assuming. But like, you know, I have these insider scoop and like, so over in this market over there, I could, if I got involved with that, I could make a shit ton of money. Let me make this business, you know, or do something, make some moves. That's how people are starting businesses and getting rich and stuff like that. That's my take. So read it instead of listening to the audio. It says in the accompanying PDF, anyone who's reading the audiobook, did you get the PDF? I guess if you did it on YouTube, then you wouldn't. You'd have to get it from a legitimate source.
Okay.
Let me just say, I guess I feel like I should just like make this claim. Like this is the only time we're going to promote an audiobook that's illegal. We're assuming that the reason why it's still up is because Andrew wanted it that way. So we're not going to say anything. But otherwise, it's like
Ellars was kind. Number of net new businesses over time, and there are hardly new businesses being started. Small businesses are having to compete with these billion-dollar companies and getting crushed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I'd be curious to know, Ellars, like before, if you're on Instagram, first of all, and then before, like I knew about Andrew Yang and like started learning about a lot of this stuff. I kind of thought, oh, like there's a bunch of new businesses being created because I was on Instagram a lot. And if you're on there and you're getting the ads, like you find out there's like a lot of like there is some cool new business formations. It's all e-commerce though, right? And I like that wasn't something I thought about at the time. So I think it seems like maybe what I feel like Andrew Yang would say is like, yeah, there is some opportunity for like growth and creation. But he like consistently makes the argument of like for every like opportunity of growth over here, there's like a fuck ton of other people over here who aren't seeing that growth. So, but anyway, I'd be curious to know if you noticed that.
Well,
as far as new businesses go.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, you know, it's businesses that you wouldn't even think of too. Like for example, my dad has his own landscaping company and he used his retirement funds from the police force to like kind of fund that. And it's all he's ever done after that. And he's really good at it. And at one point he had a pretty like mid-sized staff with like, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. And it's insane because I knew him. We met, I mean, he's my stepdad, but I call him my dad. But when I met him, he was kind of at the peak of his business and really thriving. And so it's interesting. I've literally seen his business decline partly because he just cannot compete with these bigger landscaping companies who are only paying their guys, you know, and he's paying his guys really well, but they can't be like a foreman or whatever, you know? And so it's interesting because I've seen that decline and seen the factors that go into it. So part of it is because a lot of his workers, his employees were here from Mexico, and he would like help pay for their green card and pay for all of their paperwork and everything and keep it up to date. But that got more expensive, and the reins got a lot tighter on those, you know, that demographic. And so then finally his last guy left. He went back home to Mexico, and the worker pool that he has like available to him they just don't want to work. So yeah, it's just interesting to see all the factors that go into how the smaller companies really do get eaten up by these larger companies. It looks like
that's so interesting.
Ellars does want to comment. Yeah, for sure. Ellars, I was actually thinking I would love for you to hop on. I feel like you have a lot of really great things to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to invite you.
Join us, Ellars. This is so exciting.
Ellars, I feel like you're just one of my favorite people I've met on Twitter. I love how involved you are.
Yeah. And supporting our little book club.
Yes. Ellars, I don't know why I never get your DMs. I got it.
So, okay. What else should we talk about, though? Because you got to keep it light and fun. And it's really hard to do that with this book.
No, it's really interesting though. Some of the stuff he says is like, some of the stuff he says is kind of like, oh man, this is really heavy. And then some of the stuff is like, he's like, okay, this is an issue, but we can fix it. We just have to fix it soon, you know?
Yeah. He's like, we're fucked, but we're not that fucked.
Yeah, exactly. And I need that.
And yeah. No, it gets so much better at the end. You're just like, oh.
Well, that's kind of,
okay.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of why I was thinking, Ellars, I'm not ignoring you. He said always ignoring me. But I don't know if you guys have been tuning into our Takeover Tuesdays, which you should if you haven't seen them before. On our Twitter page, we do Takeover Tuesdays. Yesterday we had Heidi. She is running for Congress in her state.
In Oregon.
Yes, in Oregon. I wanted to say Oregon and I second guessed myself. But she is, I think, a very strong candidate. Anyways, that aside, she had some really great suggestions yesterday for books. And one of the ones that she recommended was called Abundance. And I felt like that was a really kind of good companion book to Andrew's book.
Yeah. So, and usually when we realize, like, I want to use these hangs as opportunities that, like, the people who come and actually hang, like, you get the inside scoop. And, you know, so we can, like, kind of talk about, hello, Ellars.
What's up?
Yes. Oh, okay. What's up?
All right, I missed the last like 10 seconds, but I was trying to log on. But what I was going to comment, thank you for inviting me, by the way. Thank you. On the business front thing, someone was asking about graphs, so I was like, okay. If you look at like our generation, I know you guys are probably a little younger than me, but like in terms of how easy it is to like start a business that's successful, because if you look on social media and everything, like, yeah, people are trying to start businesses like as much as possible. But in terms of like, hey, if you're a student, how easy is it for you to like be able to take out $100,000 in student debt? But if you went to go start a business and wanted $100,000, business loan, it's almost impossible. Like the times I feel like have just changed where, I don't know, it's just a lot harder for people starting out to start businesses, because my grandpa started like a trucking company and they did really well. And that company is pretty much dying away right now, because it was still a family owned one. So I don't know. I think that part was just going into just the difference in our economy now versus back in the day, because a lot of these things are a lot more difficult. And I think he's trying to illustrate that maybe for the people that aren't millennials, that aren't dealing with it, dealing with our second recession right now.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, Megan and I should have said this earlier. Megan and I did indirectly deal with it because you had your stepdad situation. My dad is an airplane mechanic and like tried to start a new business that was like within the airline industry, like super necessary. He would do what's called AIs, or annual inspections. And if you have a plane, no matter what, small or large, like you have to get it inspected annually. And he's really good at it. And like that didn't do well. And I mean, my parents are in Modesto, California, which is like smaller, much lower economy. And so, I mean, yeah, like basically like saying like I saw his business decline over the like 8 years that he had it, I think.
Yeah, it's just common. I don't know. Companies are just like $1 trillion companies. Like, I don't know what Amazon's valuation is right now, but it's insane.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Really
like,
knows, right?
No, I mean, I use Amazon a lot because it's like for quarantine, it's kind of hard not to. And they just don't have any competitors, which is weird. And I mean, can you imagine a company starting out trying to compete with Amazon? Like, that's why they don't have competitors, because what they do is insane. So I don't know. It's something where hopefully, again, like the pandemic thing is not fun, but hopefully through the pandemic, people realize like, shit, we need more emphasis on people, and we need people to be able to start small businesses, and we need to like kind of tear apart some of these monopolies, because it's not healthy for anyone other than the companies themselves. And I don't know. I think it'll change.
I hope so. I think people are kind of seeing more too. Like I told my husband earlier, I said, I think we're going to have to come to terms with our normal is gone. It's not coming back. And I said, it seems like it happened overnight, but the reason these things have happened is because it's things that have been in motion that people just haven't known about. Like the automation boom, that so much automation is happening. I don't think people really realized it until they're like, oh, fuck, like it is happening, and
it's the boiling frog thing, right?
Yes. I love that quote. It's just a lot of stuff that's been happening behind the scenes, and now it's being forced into the forefront. And I think people are realizing that, and we're not going back to that normal before. And I'm kind of okay with that, because I feel like now we know what we need to fix as the people, as the citizens of America. We know like what we need to do now. It's a hard battle, but now we know, a lot has come out, I think.
And that's the thing. Like, imagine if Andrew Yang didn't run and bring all these things to light. Like, imagine if what's happening right now, you're just like, you didn't have the knowledge that he brought to light. Because right now we're
Yeah.
like, okay, we need a permanent UBI or an emergency UBI of 2,000 for the
Yes.
crisis. After the crisis steps down to a permanent UBI of 1,000 and all those other things. Like if Andrew Yang didn't run, we wouldn't be like, I don't know what I'd be doing. I'd be freaking out.
Yeah.
Because
For real.
there wouldn't be like a set path forward. But he wrote, where did I put the book? He wrote this. See, I'm participating. He wrote this, he ran for office, so he got in front of millions of people. So now it's like, hey, we actually have a path forward because like he had the foresight. He wasn't talking about a pandemic, but he ran for office at the exact time where we need everything. So now we're like, hey, we know some things we need to adjust moving forward versus if he didn't do any of that, we'd just be like, all right.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, and he talks about, in the book, he talks about how like a little bit of his own cynicism about like probably like with some things, like there's definitely a lot of potential for just like starting to accept the dystopia as it rolls out, versus where I think he says like we used to be a lot more like, oh, let's do something about this, like, you know, like I think people, I forget the quote what it was, but it was something along the lines of like, we're just a little too disconnected and we're too like, we're so taxed and we're like so like it's like we've been trod on like so many of us and so for so long that there's going to be a lot of that.
And I feel like we kind of forget as a people how much power we have. I think we've forgotten over the years because we've been so like trodden on and because the people we want to be elected don't get elected, you know, and I think it's like we've forgotten about that. And yeah, I think she meant to say unfucked us just by existing. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
It took my mind a second. I was like, he untucked us, but
I was like, Andrew Yang tucking me into bed? Yes, please. That sounds delightful.
Just like tell me lullabies and stories. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Andrew Yang ASMR.
Which is basically the audiobook.
Him just whispering.
Pretty much. That's exactly what it is. UBI. I did that for part of my 24-hour live stream that I tried to do. And it was like the most listened to part of it. So I don't know what the connection is there. But
everybody loves some good ASMR.
Shit. Yeah, that's the what's up?
That's my buddy.
Awesome.
I love her.
The more the better. Oh yeah, somebody did make an ASMR reading of the first chapter. I forgot their names. They're from LA.
What?
But you actually look up and
post that to our Twitter page.
We should post that, yeah.
Yeah, there was like 3 people reading it. I actually
sure.
saw it. But yeah, back to your point of like the people not realizing their power, because I've talked to like we Megan, you're included in that other chat, and then where we were just doing a Yang Gang hangout, just a random ass Yang Gang hangout, and then by the end of it, we're like making projects and shit.
Help ourselves.
Yeah, but a lot of the conversations we're having that, and this is within literally like the last 3 or 4 days. It's just like, why in the holy shit are people so like nobody's getting angry about what's going on? Everybody's so complacent, like everybody's so docile, like people as a whole, because people, I mean, if the stats are true that like 30% of people didn't pay their rent in April, and then, I mean, imagine what it's going to be in May and from there, like you would think there'd be more like some type of rioting
outrage.
Or I don't
outrage.
something.
Like the outrage is missing.
Right. Something. So
yeah,
like we're trying to get like, we're working on a petition for, you know, Congress to increase the UBI to 2,000 emergency UBI to make it monthly.
We retweeted that, I think.
What? Yes, you probably did.
We retweeted that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Yang dropped it this morning. Did you see, Megan, that he did?
Yeah, I put it in the chat.
Yeah, so he has like 3,600. The petition has a lot, and then we're making a video, and then so we're just trying to. The thing is, right now, like we're trying to get people to wake up. I think for the most part, just like, hey, you have value. These things that are going on aren't right. They could have been prevented, and one big reason why we are struggling so much with this pandemic is that everything Andrew Yang talked about in this book, he was relating them to automation, but most of them also apply to a pandemic where people are doing meaningless jobs are going to be, imagine how many jobs that have been lost aren't going to come back. Just because the business is probably like, oh, there's cheaper and more efficient ways to do this. Like, I don't need a person anymore. There's so many things where we need a UBI in place now. Like, first and foremost, we need a UBI. We need more people talking about this, but I don't understand why more people aren't feel the urgency. It's perplexing.
I think that's what the Yang Gang as a whole kind of feels, right? Is that I don't understand why more people aren't talking about this. And I think that's what a lot of us are kind of like, I don't get it. Because once you do explain it to people, they're like, oh, fuck, that sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like it makes sense. But then when it comes to actually implementing it, they're like, oh no, it couldn't really happen. And it's like, no, like, you don't understand. It happens because we make it happen. We do that. And I think part of this because I do have an English major, but I was a history minor. And part of that was like, a lot of that was government and poli-sci and stuff like that. And I just remember like they drilled it into us, like, you guys have, like, we have the power, but we forgot, and that's a huge thing about UBI is that we have the power to do this, if we as a people mobilize, but people think that we don't. They're like, oh no, it's never going to happen. Well, it's never going to happen because you say it's never going to happen.
Exactly.
You have to do it.
Mm-hmm. Which is another reason why I love democracy dollars so much.
Mm-hmm.
That would have.
Yeah, well, that's everything he hit on. I mean, it makes so much sense because, like, the corporations wouldn't have as much power if they couldn't lobby like they do right now. You know what I mean? Like, you put in democracy dollars and ranked choice voting, and most of the problems just go away automatically because a lot of the problems are corporations have so much influence on politicians right now that they're just going to get whatever they want because they could just pay people off. Which is insane that it's like an obvious blatant thing and they're just still doing it. Yeah. But again, it's with everything that's going on, it's going the right way. You're sorry.
Yeah. Well, someone said, I think the biggest thing with talking to people about Yang is that they didn't dismiss automation. Like, I remember telling one of my friends that we lost 5 million manufacturing jobs, 80% due to automation. And she was like, so what?
Where do you live?
Yeah.
Do you live in Central America?
I feel like some people kind of are like, so what? And you have to tell them, well, the so what is that money's not going back to the people. That's the so what,
Yeah, people like again, that's kind of what our generation, I don't know, like nowadays, if it's not personal, something that affects you personally, like people just dismiss it completely, which again, what's going on right now, it affects pretty much everyone. So the thing is, we're going to get the monthly emergency payments. Like, we're going to get that. I have no doubt about that. And then once it's in place, people like, what politicians are going to take it away? Like, people are going to get used to the monthly.
Yeah.
And you want to be the politician that takes that away? Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Will lives in Silicon Valley, by the way.
Right, which is exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
More than what I was thinking. I was thinking at least California. Because we don't see that here. You don't see that. Where I'm from, Central California, people don't realize that there is a red belt of California. It's farming. So, like, a little bit manufacturing, I'm sure, but it's farming is the main thing. So there was some of that, but then like even there, like I don't think automation yet has hit it that hard. It's just that the economy sucks up there. Yeah, I mean it's comparatively.
Where are you from? So you said Modesto?
Yes.
I have an aunt and uncle that live in Modesto.
Okay, cool. Modesto.
Is there no?
No, it's like a thing.
No, she's
it's like my cousin is from Albuquerque and I'm from Modesto.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know if there was a place called it.
Like a thing, yeah.
Right, I'm anyway. It's all right.
No, you wouldn't know if you. Obviously, no one cares.
I only know because you said that joke before.
Fair enough.
I just think it's funny. Yeah, I was thinking, so to say earlier, like, so I work for someone who's from Africa and she's also lived like kind of all over the world, but she lived in Cameroon until she was like 10 or 11 years old. And she's like self-publishing children's books. And like a big thing that she's trying to like talk about is like being in a really, Western developed country, like there's this whole narrative about how Africa, I mean, and a lot of it's true, of course, but Africa is just all shitty and like people are so unhappy there and stuff like that. And she was like, well, honestly, like it's a very corrupt and, there's a lot of that is true. But at the same time, like I grew up in this culture where it's like we took care of each other. Like we, it was a part of the culture that like, even though I had to actually go get water from like the river, like that was also, it wasn't all bad. Like it was actually like exercise. Like it was like, we didn't second guess it, like she has a really interesting perspective. And so like that is a part of, I think, African culture where it's like embedded in for families to, that it like takes a village kind of thing. And America's lost that so much. Yeah. Whereas it's like, don't talk to my kid. Like even if my kid is like, I've seen that, like my kid on the playground is like doing something they shouldn't be doing. And like you scold someone else's kid, or maybe that's California, I don't know, but it's like not okay to do that, where she'll like tell your kid off, like, cause that's what she grew up with, like if the kid is in her house and she has a pretty big house, like she's like raising that kid in that moment, like, like the way she approaches it is so different. So I think we need more of that a little bit, honestly.
Yeah, I think we as Americans as a whole, I'm not saying all of us, this is a very blanket statement. We're kind of like complacent and self-centered. And I think that this pandemic in particular has kind of showed the dark underbelly of a lot of us and exactly how selfish we are, right? This whole toilet paper debacle, for example, like nobody needs that much fucking toilet paper. I'm sorry. Are you like pooping more? Like, no.
Yeah.
No.
It's the scarcity mindset.
It is. It's the scarcity
exactly
mindset.
What I was gonna say.
And then it's also kind of I'm not going to be on the bottom. I'm going to be on the top. Like,
well, that's the thing. It doesn't even make sense at all besides the scarcity mindset. Because, okay, there's a pandemic that can be transferred through the air with multiple people. So you're going to go to Costco with thousands of other people to get toilet paper because you want to be above everyone else, but you're not worried about being infected. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we're a very entitled people. We are, and I think. Yeah. And I think all of us have our certain, things. I have to catch myself sometimes and I'm like, oh, Jesus, Megan, calm down. You're a little selfish there for a second. Like we all have our moments, so.
Well, that's just how the society is. So that's just the natural way society is.
Pretty sure you use more toilet paper at work than at home before. Yeah.
And then we put this one up.
Oh no, I missed that one.
To also comment gerrymandering. I learned about I didn't even know about gerrymandering until I was in college.
Yeah.
I mean, this was now a few years ago, several years ago, but yeah. And there's a lot of different also like types of gerrymandering. I mean, like someone said like, like the debates were gerrymandered. I know that's not the technical use of the word, right? But just what's behind that?
Yeah, they outlined the qualifications of the debate so that certain people could qualify easily and other people were left out. They gerrymandered the qualifications for the debates. Like, and it just goes back to they think politicians think they're untouchable and they can do whatever they want. And that's something else we need to fix.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think it's like the concept of removing the money is like, that's going to make, if we could do that, like that's going to, I'm sure won't fix everything, but
it'll fix a lot.
It'll fix a lot, right? And that's like it's like UBI too. Like, it's so interesting. Like so many people saying like, oh, like you can't fix everything with just like a check, but there's like the there's most of the book is like, or I should say maybe a majority of the book is we're fucked. And then he follows it up with, but this is how we cannot be fucked. And that section, there's like 2% of it that is like, this is what UBI is, this is what I propose. And then everything else is following it up after UBI and like, or going into healthcare, going into education, and like how we fix those systems like in a realistic way. And it's just so funny. It's just like, if you just looked into the guy more, you would have known that he knows that. He's well aware that a check doesn't fix it.
Yeah, UBI, I mean, getting UBI in place is just part of the paradigm shift. I mean, once you have UBI in place and then you say, hey, we also want to have something where you get $100 a year that you could donate to anybody that you want. Oh, makes perfect sense based on the other thing. Okay. And all these other policies, it's just domino effect, right? So that's why we're like, get UBI, emergency UBI in place now. And
get the people hooked.
That's it. Like, we need it for sure right now. And the opportunity is huge right now to get that in because, again, once they get the emergency UBI in, what politician is going to be the person that takes that away from people? Like, obviously, long-term after the pandemic, it doesn't have to be 2,000. It could be 1,000. But you can't just take people off of it cold turkey and be that person that they're going to blame for it. Like, Trump's trying to put his name on the checks so he could try to get like recognition for it. So
when they actually called up Andrew Yang to
I know,
be like, could you explain this concept to us?
I know.
This exotic and
but you know, it's all about the clout, baby. All about the clout.
Yeah.
He needs that. So, but yeah, that was, man, Ellars, you were bringing out the scholars in us.
Well, that's good. Some of us need to be scholarly.
Greg did add on to his gerrymandering districts to make votes count more is a huge problem. They outline the districts in such a way that isolated certain areas and gives them more voting power. Yeah. Gerrymandering.
It's just so obvious too. That's the thing. Like, these politicians aren't even doing things anymore like behind closed doors. They're doing things that are super obvious. That's just like, the fuck are you doing? Like,
yeah. Well, I'm wondering then, like, what are they teaching kids in history classes now? If like, you know what I mean? Because I don't know, and I feel like part of that is, again, checking my own privilege. I went to a private school, and so I guess like the curriculum that we had was like very. I mean, we learned about like government and the things that were involved in it. And so, I mean, I went to public school in elementary school, but I don't remember anything from elementary school. Like, so, I couldn't tell you.
Learn about government.
Yeah, but in like, I remember in middle school and high school, like learning about gerrymandering and that kind of stuff. And, and then of course in college, like I said, I actually studied history. And so these concepts, I'm like, oh, of course they've been doing this, this is, and I feel like part of the reason we don't realize we have the power is because we didn't know we had it in the first place, right? Like, do kids not know that we have the power? Like, I don't know. But
they don't touch on that much in public school. They didn't teach gerrymandering. I went to public school where I am. They don't teach that.
I learned about it in college.
Yeah, it's something where, again, running for Congress makes you sound kind of like a conspiracy theorist with a lot of this stuff. But a lot of the things where you think like, hey, that might be manufactured to be a certain way, like it absolutely is. So people being disengaged, just thinking that they can't have any positive impact on the political system, like that's completely manufactured. So that when you get in situations like this, it takes a lot more for them to actually step up and start doing something. Like, it's absolutely manufactured that way. And the thing is, like, how do we break that? And that's we're doing it.
I think for me, it's education.
Mm-hmm.
Like, our education system needs such a reboot. Like, and I love the chapter and Megan, you'll enjoy the chapter where he goes into the education system. But it's like he has
I'll
this.
Enjoy it because I haven't finished the book yet.
This is the check-in. You're not expected to finish the book.
Where are you guys? Where are you guys with the book club in the book? Where
am I? I don't have my book next to me.
I've
read it on audio.
Yeah, I did.
And then I'm in the book. I'm almost at that part. In the book, I'm on universal basic income in the real world. So I'm almost done. And this part, the last part's gonna go by fast because it's like momentum. Oh, this is positive.
Hell yeah.
So anyway, my mom was a teacher, but I'm just like, especially with, and the one thing with the COVID situation, and I was talking with my boyfriend about this, he's a music teacher at a private school. But I think it's gonna like make a lot of people, like even kids and parents, and well, the teachers probably already kind of knew this, but a lot of the stuff that you do in school, it's like not all necessary, and not like it's not all the best use of time, and you know, like there's better ways to learn a lot of the stuff. And then if you did it that way, you could learn other stuff like social emotional health and more like trade school type stuff and arts. You know, like there's so many more things that are like actually more, for the majority of people, more important than chemistry.
Yeah, and that's
yeah.
No, it's
basic chemistry for sure, but
no, that's when I always checked out as a kid, was like, hey, if I don't see some kind of correlation between what we're studying in real life, then I just mentally checked out. Like when in math, when they got to imaginary numbers, I was like, why the fuck am I ever going to use imaginary numbers? Like it doesn't.
You're literally calling it an imaginary
no, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
You expect me to give a fuck.
There's no way this would relate in my real life. So, and then it goes back to like, okay, so now people are going to realize that public school system, like I can imagine like a huge chunk of it's going to be moved to online permanently, and it should be, honestly. And they're going to realize what they're wasting time on. And again, that could be another project that our more educated minded people work on, is making a lot of these resources available to children and adults for free, like education based on everything we're talking about, because I don't see a lot of things we're talking about willingly be put into public school systems.
Yeah.
It's made me more interested in the idea of private schools, because if private schools are actually allowed to really think outside the box and not be started as like just a like money making machine thing, but like it would be so cool to have. And he brings up a private university, but I'm forgetting the details about that. I just remember being impressed with what they seem to be about. But that was a university, so for something like earlier education, something that was with like there's art schools, right? And those are just like private art schools. But I'm sure I would have issues with some of those. Like the idea of just having a school that's like based on creativity and entrepreneurial. So creativity could be arts, but it also could be like creativity and like entrepreneurship. And then entrepreneurship can get you into the STEM and sciences and all of that. So if you had a school predicated on that, you would have. So I was literally just talking with my boyfriend about this, like, creativity is the way that you get kids to actually learn, because when a child knows that they have some control and that they can control the narrative, when it comes to those things that are less fun, like for this project I want to do, like I need to learn about this chemistry stuff. Well, I better learn it, like the kid will then care and then actually apply themselves. Because my boyfriend's a music teacher, so it's just always so interesting to hear. He also teaches privately, and to hear the differences that he has between the kids who are doing music for a grade and the kids who are doing music because they told their parents, "Hey, I want to learn guitar," or whatever,
Yeah.
So that's something else Yang Gang can work on. You've heard of like Khan Academy, like
it's in the
online resources that kids and adult like just have free access to
for medical school, actually, because he actually just graduated. Didn't get a ceremony because of this whole thing, but he just graduated. But he used Khan Academy quite a bit too, just for their free resources, just to brush up on things, and that's how I knew about it.
Yeah, so imagine everything we're talking about, Yang related, UBI related, just humanity first related, but put into a system where people can access it and really learn. Because it's true, I think one reason Yang didn't do as well is because a lot of what he talks about does have a little bit of a learning curve. Like, if anything, it needs a little time for it to marinate and kind of.
That's why I started the book club.
Yeah,
exactly. See, so you're on the right page. That's what I'm saying. So,
read this book.
and right now it's not just. I think the purpose has evolved not just to get Andrew Yang elected, because with everything going on, like, we need everything now.
Yeah.
And I think he realizes that too. So any and all resources we could build to get this to more people, the better.
Yeah. That's
and I think,
literally one of the tenets of why we have the book club. It's because we said, yes, we want him elected, but it's more so about just teaching people and about creating a place where we can learn those ideas and grow those ideas, not just within the Yin Gang, but beyond, like giving people the resources.
Yeah, which is why, like, a little like insight on the book club, we're not there yet, but like the goal is to get to the point where we're able to have people like who have been participating online then start chapters in real life in their own communities. And get, like, you could easily start if you've got like a few friends who are like, I personally have a few friends that were interested in his ideas, and I would have conversations with them, and I could tell, like, in the back of their mind, they're thinking, I really like this, but he's not going to win,
Yeah.
And now's the opportunity when he's out of the race to like even have a more like benign, like super, chill conversation about stuff like this. So like, and we'll reread the book and other books about UBI in the future.
Yeah, and people's guards are down a little bit more now too. So if you tell them like, hey, read this guy's book during a presidential election when he's a candidate, then they're like,
that's a lot of
politics.
Cultish.
But now they're like, oh, okay, he's not running anymore, and you still are interested.
Yeah.
So it's
I've had a couple of friends tell me that they want to read the book. So
they're just like, oh, okay, I'm down.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll do that. Cool.
Yeah.
So the Yang Gang Book Club will evolve into a education organization, right?
We have ideas, Ellars. We have ideas.
I know.
Wink.
It's all good.
Oh, I'm surprised I could wink, actually. Sorry.
Do you usually have problems winking?
No, I just didn't know if I could do it on the video.
Oh, okay. It's all good.
All the pressure.
Too much pressure.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to like get to the point where we could have like cool, like, do either of you guys know about video essays? Follow people who do video essays?
No, but I mean, explain it to me just in case it's not.
Yeah, so everyone watching this, like, go check out, I shared one of this person's page on the book club page, but it's hard to like see everything. So go check out Nerd Writer. NERDWRITER. He's like the cream of the crop. He's been doing this for a long time. He's got a huge following on YouTube. And he does a lot of, or last I was I kind of haven't checked in on him since before the campaign, I think, and I need to catch up on all his content. Because he doesn't do, they're so well thought through. I think he does 2 videos a month, even. Like, they're like legit, like, produced video essays, but they're still kind of short and sweet. And he actually does a lot on like art, pop culture. So it's so interesting because it's like a really great, like, very engaging, like, cinematic video to watch, but they're very thought-provoking and they're super well done. And then there's a woman named Lindsay Ellis, and she's also pretty popular, but she's more of the like casual armchair. You can't see my couch, but I'm like the armchair scholar. What's that term? They're more conversational, but they're also scripted, and she like does a lot on Disney. But she's not like a Disney fangirl, or maybe she was in a previous life or a previous point in her life, but they're very critical of Disney, actually. So those are
Lindsay
2.
Ellis? How do you spell her name?
Lindsay Ellis. LINDSEYELLIS.
I threw that in the comments too.
Nerd Writer has 2.8 million subscribers. Damn.
Yeah, all those people who like video essays enough to subscribe, I guess. So.
Oh, Harry Potter.
He's hooked.
Harry Potter.
Ellers
Actually, I don't think I've seen that. he's done all sorts of stuff, and he'll do stuff like he has an episode that's on video game music.
Really?
Like he just like he finds the most random things, and they're all his thoughts.
That's
and
cool.
like to me, like I'm like I hope he's Yang Gang, because I really hope that like eventually he'll join the Yang Gang because he'd be great. He's like exactly like where it's like it's stuff that's relevant, but it's thinking harder, and it's like engaging with content that's not just like brain dead. Like, oh, let me just escape the world for a couple hours. I'm not against that either, but it'd be nice to have both, you know, like we need more of both, or we need more of the other one. The first one we have too much of. So yeah,
that's why I think a lot of Yang Gang is getting started, like with what you're doing. Like, thank you for everything y'all are doing, because that's something that people are definitely engaged in, they're interested in, and it'll evolve and keep evolving, you know. So it's awesome.
Yeah, we have lots of ideas, guys. That's why I'm like, I was saying this earlier. Oh, right before you came on, I was like, you know, I'd like to use this opportunity to like for people who actually like tune into these things, like get a little bit of the inside scoop of some of the things we're planning, and we have a lot of things we're planning. Yeah. Get some feeler for some people's thoughts.
Yeah.
Really just this month though, we're focusing on War on Normal People, and Megan and I are gonna have a meeting about that tomorrow, so we're gonna start like pushing some more content and stuff soon, but largely quoting the book and being like
no, it's an awesome
boom.
book. Like I didn't read his book until after like I attended some rallies and like was following him a lot, so I was surprised how much of what like pretty much everything he did for his campaign was from the book, and the book touches on it and then expands on it. So I was super familiar with a lot of the points just from his stump speeches, and then he expands it from there. And again, like that's very good timing for you guys to be going over it because of how much it's needed right now. Like I really, really think we can get a $2,000 emergency monthly stipend and then have it turn into like a permanent UBI. Like when he was campaigning, it was like, 10, 20 years in the future. You know what I mean? Now it's like, okay.
Now.
3 months ago, he was, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just how fast it changed. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, everybody was like, oh no, I thought it was a great idea.
I know. They're like, oh yeah, I supported it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then people trying to give other people credit without mentioning Andrew Yang, but that's something else.
Yeah. My boyfriend's like a big gamer, and he has some guys that he games with, but they're Trump supporters, and like he was telling me how they were like started talking about the checks, like, oh, it's Trump's idea, and like
yes,
like
brother.
you know, and he was like, dude, I was literally telling you about Andrew Yang, like that's Yang's idea, like what the fuck are you doing, like, you know, like they're buddies, but he'll like call them out, you know, because it's like
well, and we don't care about like we want other people to help implement it, just don't try to take the credit or not mention Andrew Yang and everything he's done. Like you guys we're not holding it for ourselves. Like anybody else that wants to run with it, cool. Just acknowledge who got it to this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's the main thing is I feel like people that don't mention Andrew Yang have their own motives behind it. Like they want the credit. And like personally, I want Andrew Yang to have credit because like I trust him as a person to want to get these things through to genuinely help people, not any ulterior motives.
Yeah.
So that's why whenever I see people that are trying to leave him out, like I get super upset and start going after him. Because I like with him at the helm of this movement, like I trust the direction that it's going to go because I don't think he has any different motives behind it.
Yeah. Well, and he's also not the type of person to be like, this was my idea.
Exactly.
You know, he's not that type of person. And so in a way, it's kind of not our job. But like, I think that's why the Yang Gang is so passionate about like it, like say his name, you know, like just say his name. He's spent so much of his life like working on this.
Right. And for me, like in the past, when I would hear him say like, I'm just trying to get these things passed. Like if someone else, that's fine. And I'm in the back of my head, I was like, no, like that's not like the spirit behind something, like the fact that you're the one that came up with this that matters. Like, you don't want someone else to like take your idea and run with it. Like, the chances of it having the right, I don't know, like, the word I'm thinking of is like spirit. That's the word that comes to mind. But you know, like the identity of it and the purpose behind, like the full
vision.
purpose behind it. Like the full vision, like everything that's in that book, you know, it's just like, if someone else did it, I wouldn't trust it. And it's just like, so I'm just kind of like, I get why he's saying that. I don't ultimately like it that much, you know, like, I'm just like, no, we need you.
Yeah. Yeah, Scott Sampson's also does. Yeah. I mean, he's literally devoted his life to it. That's all he does.
Literally. Yeah.
Yeah. He also
So
deserves
Andrew
a
and
lot.
Scott.
Plus, these guys are a lot smarter than the politicians that are trying to push it. So, I mean, I just trust, and they're learning the hard way right now. Like, they did a one-time check at 1,200, and they're like, "Shit, this needs to be monthly." Like, listen to Andrew Yang. It needs to be monthly and like, no means testing. Like,
and universal.
Like, exactly. Like, so they'll learn regardless. But please just listen to Andrew and Scott right now, so it will. Like, it'll avoid a lot of headache.
Yeah. What are you guys' thoughts on what's his name? Rutger Bregman, right? Who wrote Utopia for Realists?
Oh, I was like, why do I know that name?
I haven't read that.
Okay, so so maybe, do I know more? So he was like he did the TED Talk, and then he on UBI, and he wrote that book, and he gets that book gets recommended a lot, and I like the title so much. Like, that's a big reason why I want to read it, just because that title, like, it's a good title. It really interests me. Yeah. But he did not endorse Andrew. Did he endorse Bernie? I think he endorsed Bernie. You guys will have to look into it and tell me next time.
I'll look into it. Whenever I come on, you will be the educators and I will be the not as smart student. So I'm getting his book right now, and I will be more educated.
I am gonna get my hands on it. The thing is that, like, for me and Megan, like, we don't read a lot of nonfiction, and we don't read, like, we're like reading for fun. Like, I'm like, give me a fantasy where like the girl has to like take on, you know, like, I actually don't read a lot like the Yang Gang, I guess, in a way, like, based on what we've been recommended. Luckily, there are some nerds that read like Brandon Sanderson and stuff, and I fully intend to read Brandon Sanderson. He's a big fantasy writer, if you guys don't know about him. And so for me, it's like interesting running this, where I'm like, like, in a lot of ways, I feel like, you know, fully qualified to do this, but then in other ways, I'm like trying to recommend the books on like the times when we recommend books, and I'm like, I hope they like it.
I know, because for me, I'll read some nonfiction, but it's mainly memoirs. Like, I'm a huge memoir fan. Yeah. Like, I love reading about other people's lives, but when it comes to like even the War on Normal People, like, I'm kind of struggling to get through it. Not because it's like not well written, and it's just because that's not usually what I read. And so having to pay such close attention, first of all, to understand it and really grasp the concepts, but also so that we can then relay those concepts to you guys. Like, it's a lot. But yeah, we're mainly fiction readers. So.
Yeah. So
you're mainly fiction, because I'm the other way. I'm mainly nonfiction, and it takes, just because it's either of you have kids? No, when you get there, it's like, okay, I have to do everything in my power to try to help whatever they need to do. So I'm like, it's a lot of, like, what I recommended was Malcolm Gladwell. Like, a lot of that is huge for a helping mentality, and then a lot of business books, and then War on Normal People, and then it's just bouncing around. And then, like, when I have the appetite for nonfiction, it needs to be something that I've already gone over, so I don't have to pay close attention, because my kids will come in and interrupt. And so that's why I'm like, okay, when I'm in a nonfiction setting, I'll run through Harry Potter, because there's 7 books, and it like, I've gone through them a few times so I don't get distracted. But like, having to jump around so much with kids, it's just like, it's really hard to consume things that are new and be able to pay attention as much as I want to, or else you miss a lot. So I've been a lot of the opposite, and I really only read Fiction versus nonfiction battle royale. Shit, it's too good fun.
That should be my question of the day. I should post on mine. Fiction.
Seriously, no, I'd be very interested, like how Yang Gang thinks, because
I don't know. I lost my streak, man. I lost my streak. I didn't post a question for one day, and now nobody answers my questions anymore.
We'll retweet it. Everybody's distracted by stimulus payments.
I know, right?
Yeah.
God, my dad.
So as someone,
again. My dad emails me instead of texts me.
That's so funny. It's adorable.
Oh my God.
As a fiction reader, okay, first of all, there is actual, I need to find this so that I can post it on the page, but there's like actual research and like evidence that, you know, fiction, even though people think like, oh, like reading nonfiction to get smarter, it's true, but there's like actual research that shows that fiction is the thing that stimulates your brain the most. And I would assume that means like actually helps you grow, like, you know. So that's something that like we've talked about, is just like, how are we going to get the Yang Gang to want to read fiction? Because there's actually like, there's so many benefits. There's so much great conversation. It's just like, it's actually like scientifically proven that it is actually good for you. So I don't know, as someone who's a nonfiction reader, I'd be curious to know, like, what are your thoughts on that? Like,
I completely like I'm for it. Like, it's just making it something that, I don't know, is digestible in small pieces throughout the day is kind of what my biggest challenge is. And for it to be, I guess, for it to be something that I know I'm going to be interested in. Because if, again, our attention spans nowadays, if you're not just grabbed right away, then it's like, I started it, but I'm not, you know, I didn't get really far, which, again, that's, from my perspective, that's what it is. So maybe I just need different recommendations, because I don't know, I just don't know. I'm skeptical about news stories that I don't know if I'm going to be super interested in.
It's hard to, even if, like, let's say, okay, you like Harry Potter. Well, for example, even that same author, her other books start the same. I'm trying to read one of her other ones, and it's very slow going. You know, and so it's interesting that even within the fiction genre, even the same author, you can't even be like, oh, you like this author, you might like their other books, because sometimes it's just a very different vibe.
Yeah, so that's just my challenge, right? That's my challenge, is like, okay, do I do this or do I, because the other thing too is like, everything I've been trying to do over the last like 6 months is, I feel like, super inadequate. Like, how, like, running for Congress, I was like, okay, I need to read all these books about political stuff, because I just feel super inadequate. So now it's like, I'm still adjusting from taking a breather from that. Like, I don't have a billion things to do every day. So like, I mean, I'd be really interested to have a recommendation for some fiction books, and then me go into them and then give you feedback on how I'm doing with them. Because again, I just returned back to Harry Potter and Ready Player One and like things like that. Lord of the Rings.
I actually genuinely think I finally watched the movie.
Ready Player One?
Enjoyed. Yeah. Did you like the movie?
Yeah, no, I watched the movie first, and then I read the book, and I was like, they're both amazing.
Well, like I read the audio and was like, okay, the movie is going to be better than the book, because it's like the book is a good book, but it's also not that well written. The movie was, I think, better than the book, but I enjoyed both, and I think we should read. I think it'd be great, because I think we should read. I just think we should read that book, and then we should, because then we have the movies you could like compare, and that seemed like a good fiction pick for the Yang Gang book club.
A big reason I was, because I didn't read that book until I found Yang, and a lot of what goes on in the book applies similarly, because they're in a future society where people don't have that much opportunities. They are so they're not engaged with the real world, that they just go into this fake world versus facing the real problems that we're dealing with. And it's just a dystopia, kind of like what we're trying to avoid right now. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it applied, and I think that's a lot of the appeal with me. Plus, it's just a lot of super nerdy references, which I love too.
Yeah.
If you like Harry Potter, you might like The Name of the Wind. Okay, I'll look at it.
Okay, that book has been recommended to me a million times. So yeah, I have a thing where if a series has been on standby, like the last book has been out for years, and the author hasn't done the next book. Yeah, which is like the George R.R. Martin situation, and then I think The Name of the Wind. But I think The Name of the Wind will get finished. It's just that it's been a little while. So that one I probably will end up reading, but I'm going to wait till the next book comes out. I was going to say something. Oh, about Ready Player One. Like we were talking earlier about the complacency, and it's just so interesting. Like these people are living in the real world. They're living in like, it's like a trailer park where like they're all stacked on top of each other, and it's like basically like it looks like a third world country.
Yeah.
And they're okay with it because like corporations have provided the Oasis, which is the virtual reality world, and they just like plug into that, and like that's okay, like that's enough for them. And it's just like that was the thing that struck me, because you know, when you read the book, like yeah, I totally have a visual impact, but like there's still something more striking about when you see a movie and you see like a real image. The way that they rendered that was just like, it was just like overwhelming, you know. Like I was just like, that watching the movie made me think about, or also when I read the audiobook, I hadn't heard of Andrew Yang. That was a couple of years ago. So anyway, yeah, it reminded me of that, and I was just like, whoa, like, and you know, my boyfriend was like, yeah, like this could kind of be us. Like this is like really not, it's like sci-fi, but it's like so realistic. It's so possible.
That's how I feel when I watch Black Mirror.
Oh my God. Black Mirror is a whole nother, it's like Ready Player One. Another one people relate a lot to where we're heading is like Hunger Games, which the books are also really like, I think we read, me and my wife listened to the first book. We still have to go from there, but a lot of us just like, okay, this is what we're trying to avoid. And I think it just has to be some kind of relation with that, where again, it goes back to, I don't know, something I relate personally with fiction that I'll get engaged with it. And these are all thoughts that that are all coming up in real time as we're speaking. This isn't something I thought of ahead of time. So maybe that's what I need to deal with, is like, okay, find some fiction that I can relate to, some new fiction that I can relate to, because I think that's what has engaged me. I don't know. Yeah. It's interesting.
I literally think it's a skill, because I've been a reader, pretty serious reader, for the majority of my life. I actually like had a time when I was in like second grade where I was like, my reading skills were really low. And they had this thing called direct instruction, and it was like absolute shit. And I got really bad at reading for a couple years, and then like rediscovered it from like fourth grade on. So anyway, I've been reading a lot for the majority of my life, and like practicing those skills, like my boyfriend's not a big reader, and I have other people that I know that aren't big readers, and I just like in certain interactions, like I noticed that like there's sometimes these skills I feel like can give me an upper hand at time. Like there are genuine benefits to it, and it's just like and if it's a skill, it's something that anyone can do. Like people who think they aren't readers, there's that quote of like, if you think you're not a reader, you probably just haven't found the right book yet, you know? Yeah. And so it's like, don't be afraid to jump into something that's just like fun, and you don't feel like it has to be this lofty endeavor kind of thing.
Yeah. I think the same thing too, is that like books, you don't always have to get something out of it, right? Sometimes it's literally just the fun of it. What you get out of it is just joy. And like, that's what I love so much about reading, is sometimes I just put down a book and I'm like, you know, I didn't learn anything, but I just feel really happy having read that. Like, I mean, for example, one of my favorite series, kind of like what you said, Ellars, about a series that you can kind of come back to when you don't want to have to think about it, is, for me, that's the Princess Diaries series. And like, I know that's such a like girly YA thing, but like for me, that's a series where, yes, I relate to the main character because she's a big old nerd, and but also like you get lost in the world, and like I don't learn anything from that series. I'm not a teenager anymore. I'm not a 15-year-old girl, like, you know, but it's a series that like I get joy from, because I like seeing her journey, and like I think it's really cool, and I like the world that Meg Cabot has created within, you know, Mia Thermopolis and Genovia and all that. Like I don't know, it's like it's cool to me, and I don't learn anything from it, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And that's the balance I think I need to work on, is having, because I grew up, again, like, I don't know how much you know about my background. I grew up in a family of 6 kids in a fairly, I mean, working class family. So it was never like, hey, we're going to help you pay for college or any of these things. So straight out of high school was just like, it's like, okay, how do I improve myself? Because I am starting from the bottom. So that's where I think a lot of the mentality of nonfiction versus fiction is just like survival. So now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, I need some kind of balance, because it's not really healthy to only focus on nonfiction just on the point of like self-improvement, because you could kind of drive yourself crazy if you're only thinking about the rat race and trying to get ahead. So that's where, I mean, it's only been in the last couple of years. Like I've never read, again, it goes back, like, personally, I never read the Harry Potter series until a couple of years ago, when we were moving from California to Texas. We lived in Texas for a year. So I flew my wife and kids out to Texas so they didn't have to drive. And it was just me driving with the Chihuahua. So I just listened to Harry Potter, the audiobooks. And at that point I was like, oh, I should probably try this reading fiction a little more. But again, personally, it's just like, I always have kind of approached reading from the necessity, like, okay, what do I need to learn? And it's been good. It's like, it's helped me read, but it's like, now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I need more balance. And again, a lot of it comes back to Andrew Yang, just like, hey, it's not a lot of the problems that these people are facing, or the people are facing in our country, are not personal, specific to one people. Like, most people are dealing with the same things. And I've talked to my wife about this, is like, I approached reading, again, back to the book club thing, as a strategic thing, because I thought I was fucking up so much because of my personal life. But when you listen to Andrew Yang, you're like, okay, there are systematic things that we need to fix so that people aren't worrying about their personal performance so much. And that's one reason why, depression and suicides are so high, because people are internalizing these things. So that's really when I started opening up more to like fiction and other things. Like, okay, yes, you need to improve yourself, but you also need to enjoy life. So yes, I will expand my fiction. So any recommendations y'all have, appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean,
help.
Yeah, and like, keeping in that vein, like, you could easily just read The Name of the Wind on audio, especially like being as a parent, like, I honestly think at this point I read more on audio than I do in real life, because like, I'm doing the dishes, and I'm folding laundry, and I'm listening to an audiobook or a podcast, but and it makes it, I like sometimes look forward to that, because if I'm like, especially now with quarantine, if I'm like at home pretty much all the time, and like working from home, and then it's like, or working at my desk or in my bed, and like, I can get up and like kind of move a little bit and like listen to an audiobook. Like, I'm starting to like really look forward to it.
Yeah.
Which is odd, but.
Well, no, I mean, that's the only way I can read or listen is if I'm doing one thing and also have the book playing at the same time, or if I'm driving and I have a book going, because otherwise, like, to sit down again, like the kids, like, I want to make sure I'm paying attention to them, but the Audible is all I'd use right now. Again, another Amazon company. So, but that's off the subject.
That's okay.
Yeah. I mean, the way so on your fiction journey, like the way to get into it is like, just having fun and just trying to be able to feel, like, see yourself in the characters and stuff like that. But the way when I talk to people like who don't really read fictions, like, when you get into the more like literary stuff, like, you want to think of it as like a puzzle. because that was how, like, when I was having to, like, as an English major, having to, like, read a lot and write a lot about what I was reading, is like you're being presented with these pieces, and the good writer isn't telling you why. Like, they're saying this is the story, and they're placing you there, and they're letting the pieces fall as they want you to see them fall. And it's about, like, seeing that and deciding for yourself, not having, like, a nonfiction writer say, like, give you the path there.
Mm-hmm.
It's about you drawing those conclusions. And so I think that's the thing about fiction that I feel like a lot of people don't get, because, you know, like, I was lucky that I had some teachers that, like, pushed me there, you know, guided me there. And I also loved it, you know, but then I feel like that's the thing that a lot of people don't, like, that's the difference. Like, when I say, like, you can learn stuff or grow from reading fiction, I feel like people don't get it. And that's kind of where my head is at. It's like, that's the process that you can go through. But it's like, it takes time and a lot of intellectual, like, effort too, you know? So it's like, it's hard to, like, I don't want to make people feel bad for not taking the time to do it either.
Yeah, and that's something I'm barely getting into, but I'm discovering that part. Just that you don't have to present everything that to the person in one helping, with the fiction world as opposed to the nonfiction world, because I feel like, again, like, I ran for Congress and I felt like in the beginning I was like, I have to give everybody all the information at once. But when you approach it more from like, I don't know if you guys know this, but I worked at Disney for a year, and their biggest thing was just the way they storytell. And like, one of the main trainers I had at Disney was one of the best storytellers I've ever met or encountered in my entire life. It's just like, how do you balance that? Like, and again, it's going back to the balance. Like, up until this point, I've been way too much on the nonfiction, and I need to focus on the fiction and the storytelling, and, like, eventually the writing, like, learning, developing that a lot more. So again, thank you for what you guys are doing, because you're engaging me more.
Cool. We can read your writing. Did you know about story time?
Yeah, I need to write for you to read it though. So
okay. So you have your assignment.
A lot of assignments. It's all good.
That's okay. They're all pass.
Yeah. Wait, they're all pass, no pass?
They're just pass. There is no fail.
They're just pass. There's no fail.
they're just pass.
Pass, no pass without the no pass.
That's good. That's all me right there. I like it.
Yeah. This has been great. I feel like having you on here, we've taken this, like, conversation in places we just didn't even.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, Kateri and I just hop on here and.
We do not plan this out.
No, we're like, oh, okay, we'll mention more on normal people, but let's just talk.
Yeah.
Like,
you guys put out good content regardless. Having a guest definitely just takes it different places. Like I said, I feel like that's why a lot of podcasts do that, just so they, you know, the guest can make up the content and you just kind of go with it.
Okay.
It helps.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's good, and hopefully it's a lot of people, you know, that have dealt with the same thing are kind of getting some of that out of it too, because everything we've talked about, we didn't plan in advance. It's just all thoughts that are completely genuine, that coming out as we're speaking about it. So I have a lot of homework in terms of developing my fictional side.
I love how we just had this whole, like, conversion therapy.
I know.
No, it's true. It's true, because I mean, everything you talked about with fiction, with not having, not presenting everything to the reader at once. Again, going back to Harry Potter. I mean, spoiler alert, if you haven't read the whole thing, close your ears. But like the Prince's Tale with the whole Snape thing that she doesn't let out until the very last book. So the entire series, like I tell my wife, like, I think that's one reason I like the series so much, is because you don't know how everything's interconnected till, like, the very end.
Yeah.
And it makes it so much better. And that's one reason why I don't think I'll ever, like, I've watched the first season of Game of Thrones, but based on everybody's reaction from the last season, like, I won't go through it, because I'm not going to consume something that the end is horrible versus the end being like Harry Potter, where she writes the entire story with the end in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was I studied abroad in France, but I went to the UK, and I happened to be in London when they had an exhibit, and they had some of her writing that like she had these like kind of graphs where is like her writing. It was like, oh my God. She's like trying to catch the waves of energy. I don't know. But she had the series planned out like before she wrote the first book, like, and like specific details of like, just like these character things, elements that were like small but big at the same time, you know, that you're like, whoa, like she had that figured out like that early on. 7 fucking books. Like,
no, even
like,
more
I've
than
kind
that.
of tried doing that. Yeah, I've kind of tried doing that with 3, and it's so hard. So, yeah, it's crazy. She's actually a genius.
Yeah,
and that was really cool to do.
I'm trying to. What was it called? What's in the Fantastic Beasts movie? What is the thing called? The crazy thing that lives in the guy. I forget what it's called. Have you seen those movies yet?
I actually haven't seen the most recent one, but I saw the first one.
But
I will watch it eventually.
But even the stories of the prequels that they're trying to do, like that was all even planned together ahead of time.
Yeah,
so
like they were just like, hey, can we like do some more content? And she was like, oh yeah, sure. And then like show that she had all of this backstory. Like, I mean, I don't actually know that's what happened, but I'm sure it's basically what happened.
No, if you haven't seen the second one, like watch the second one, because the second one is the first Fantastic Beasts is more just like a linear storyline. The second one is a lot more intricate. Like she even said that she had a lot more fun writing the second one because it's one of those where it gives a lot more depth.
Yeah, because Grindelwald is in it.
And a lot of other things. I won't give it away, but
no spoiling.
No spoiling.
Yeah.
Yes, so I will figure out some more fiction, some new fiction to read because I get in the habit of kind of like with what I do with The Office. Like we watched The Office like 20 times. So if I'm doing something, Michael Scott's just in the background because it's just easy. But I need to challenge myself.
Every time The Office comes up, every time we have a live stream, Kateri.
Yes, every time we have a live stream, The Office has been brought up, and then we're just like,
because The Office is amazing. It's amazing. I got Dwight and Michael just sitting there.
I appreciate The Office, but I watch Parks and Rec probably more because
I like them both.
I am an extremely empathetic person. Not sympathetic, empathetic. I feel what other people feel very deeply. And so Michael Scott, I get so much secondhand embarrassment. Like sometimes it makes me uncomfortable to watch it. So.
I probably not. I completely understand with what you're saying because if there's like an embarrassing part of a show or movie that I know is super embarrassing, I'll fast forward it.
Yes.
I'm just like,
yes.
I don't want to do it.
I don't want to watch that shit. Yeah.
I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be embarrassed.
And I do that with books too, though, to be honest with you. Even though you could just like read it really fast, like I'll do that sometimes where I'm like, I have to put this book down for a second. Like I just can't even finish it because I'm so embarrassed for this character.
Yeah, you're like, now. I need to come back to this later. I need to brace myself.
I'll do the same thing. It turns into procrastination because I won't want to get to that part. I'm just like, I can't deal with it.
Yeah.
Interesting. I never reflected on that before. I don't know if that was a thing that anybody else did.
Secondhand embarrassment or skipping?
Both.
Yeah.
So true. I get so embarrassed for other people. I'm just like, I can't.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's a ton of like book lists out there. So like you could totally like Google like what to read if you liked Harry Potter, and then there'll be like you'll find lists out there that like recommend, and then you can be like, oh, that looks interesting. Like,
no, young adult is awesome. Like, don't let that young adult like genre, like just because it's called young adult, don't let that turn you off from it. Kateri and I think that's our favorite like subgenre of fiction to read.
Really?
Like,
okay.
Yeah. A lot of it's really good. There's there's stuff that's like that is, young adult is a marketing tool. First of all, like before young adult existed, there would be books about teenagers that were just books, but then the marketing thing kind of came in, and yeah, it did change the fiction to a certain extent, and then there's not good young adult out there, but there's plenty of not good fiction out there and plenty of not good
nonfiction
fantasy,
there,
you know.
yeah.
So if you want, you should read I recommended this like ages ago when we like first started the book club, but I would highly recommend reading, and if Ready Player One is young adult, by the way, I would highly recommend reading Scythe by Neil Shusterman, and I actually think the Young Gay Book Club should read it anyway. It's about a future where, first of all, a lot of things about the future because of like technology look a lot like what I think we all think a UBI future would look like. But also technology has advanced so much that we've like eradicated death. And so like you can like choose not, most people don't die. They like turn a corner and go young again. And if there is an accident or something, you can be revived. Like you basically, as long as your body wasn't burned, you know. But to control the population, they've created this thing called the Scythedom. So it's like there are like licensed killers out there, and like, but they're like these honorary figures in society, like, you know, because it's like, well, yeah, well, we do actually need to control the population. So if you get killed by a scythe, then you're dead. So anyway, it's a really interesting like sci-fi book, and it just happens to be YA because the main characters are like in their teens.
I feel like, I also sense. Yeah, I feel like I also have a good one too. Speaking of, so if you like, so one of the things that I like within, I think young adult does this a lot, is I like when people take like fairy tales and recreate them and reimagine them. I think that's really cool. And there's this one series called The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. And she essentially like recreates all of these fairy tales in like a future world where like humans there's like, it's Earth, but like it's totally different. Like the districts are different, the countries are different, like everything's different. But then we've also populated the moon. And people who live on the moon develop these like powers, and the powers that it's like mind control. And so it's really cool. And they're looking for like the lost princess and stuff like that. And so, but
the girl who's like Cinderella is a cyborg.
Yeah, she's a cyborg named Cinder. Yeah, so that one's really cool. Yeah.
I'm adding these to my list as you're telling me if I'm looking away.
I'm on, and that would probably be a really good one to actually read on audiobook. I don't know if the narrator is actually good, but I feel like it would be a really good one to read on audio, because these are also kind of books that also just read kind of cinematically like a movie, you know?
Yeah,
it's like,
they do.
It is plot-based, you know, but it's plot-based, but you can still have a plot-based book that like is working with, you know, ideas and systems, and, you know, it's like reimagining the world, and it's still making you think even though it's plot-based.
I just thought of another question.
Within the book world, there's this whole like plot-based versus character-based, and it's like plot-based is the like fluff and character-based is the like legitimate stuff, and I think it's stupid, mostly stupid.
Which one's stupid?
So yeah, I've read that whole series. I would recommend it.
Which one's stupid? Plot-based or character-based, or just looking at?
I think the whole dichotomy is stupid.
Oh, dichotomy. Yeah, a lot of dichotomies are stupid.
A lot of dichotomies are stupid. Stupid dichotomies. Yeah. So anyway, we'll probably keep like DMing you.
Yeah.
Oh, Ellars, you should read this.
It's all good.
We got this one.
Oh yeah, you could do that. You could also say like if you like Ready Player One, you should read this, and you'll find like a lot of lists out there with a lot of cool books.
Yeah, when I typed in like books you would like if you like, the first thing to auto complete was Harry Potter. So I don't know if that's Google reading my mind or if that's just the most popular one people look up.
Could honestly be both, but right? But I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
That's a whole data privacy thing. Like, have you ever been thinking something and then it comes up on your like Google ads?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, not just talk about it, like thinking it. I haven't talked about this out loud.
Yeah.
Because I understand Siri's always listening.
Okay, you know what happened? Something weird is my husband and I were looking at Scrubs on his phone. And then the next day I had an ad on my phone, on my Facebook.
Have you ever
Yeah, it was so weird. I was like, this was weird.
Well, no, they're creating things where devices talk to each other. So like weird. For example, TVs will put out a a signal that the human ear can't hear, but the phones can pick up. So they could ping and see whoever's in a room from a TV can ping to see what phones are in the room.
And yet they don't have all of our banking information
They have
to
everything.
give us those checks.
They have everything. That's a whole nother data privacy, like Yang policy.
Like, don't
Like,
pretend.
Yeah.
They have everything. Like if you're watching, have Westworld, either of you, newest season? Oh my God.
I didn't watch that.
It gets into all of this. It's insane.
Yeah, I get stuck in a TV rut. I watch the same things over and over again.
Well, no, that's exactly what, like I said, I've watched The Office probably like 30 times. Like
I am watching something new now, though. I'm watching Psych. I'm going through Psych, and I'm very annoyed.
Oh, is that when he acts like he's a psychic?
Yes, and I'm very annoyed because I'm waiting for him and Juliet to get together, and they're not yet. And I'm very impatient.
Bastards.
I know.
I haven't seen it.
I'm actually watching Tiger King still.
What?
I only watched the first episode.
I have like 2 episodes left.
Really?
Oh.
Okay, Westworld.
I guess I'll watch it tonight. We're going to do pizza and watch a movie. I'm going to watch Tiger King.
Hell yeah. I've only
kind of a movie.
Yeah.
Wait, I saw that. I was scanning through Netflix and it said there was a new episode of Tiger King.
Yeah, so it's like a kind of like, I don't know if you guys watched Love is Blind. I didn't, but I'm all over social media, so I heard all about it. And at the end of Love is Blind, they did like a reunion where they like hosted. So basically it's the same thing with Tiger King. Like Joel McHale is like hosting like a reunion episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they're gonna So I guess we have 1 episode and then we have that part.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're really almost done with it.
I need to catch up.
Cool. Yeah.
Was that a dad joke?
I need to catch up. I don't need to. I need
oh
to
my gosh, your dad jokes on Twitter are just the best.
I don't
I mean
them up either. I find them. When I find them, I post them. People are like, how'd you come up with that? I'm like, I didn't come up with it.
Nothing's original.
I know, that's what I'm like, you don't think I come up with those?
There's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah. They're great though.
I'm embracing the dad joke thing. Like I get more attention from the dad jokes than I do the political stuff, which is weird. So
it's cool. Whatever, it's cool.
People are oversaturated with the political stuff.
So once we get UBI in place, I'm just gonna go entirely to dad jokes because the work will be completed. Yeah. Dad jokes and Harry Potter. I don't think you guys understand how into Harry Potter. Have I shown you? Like, I have like the Deathly Hallows.
Yeah.
I got all that shit.
Yeah, it's like pretty impressive.
That is impressive.
I'm obsessed.
I mean, I have some cool stuff. I'll show you next. Like, I have some cool let's see, what do I have? I have like some cool bookmarks that are like it's like a wood bookmark that has like art on it. What else do I have? I forget. Yeah, but I have like other like random stuff.
I thought you were
I bought my friend the Marauders map.
I thought you were going to say tattoos. Then I was like, Kateri, you didn't tell me you have tattoos.
I have 0 tattoos.
Soon. I'm sure you'll get there. After you get the first one, you'll get a ton more.
That's true.
So
I had a dream that I got one.
Really? Oh, subliminal. You want one?
It doesn't get that bad.
Depends where you get it.
True.
My first one is a giant one on my ribs, and it hurts so bad.
Right here?
It was like here. Yeah, I had a dream I got a tattoo like along here because it was a saying my dad and I say bigger than the universe, which means I love you bigger than the universe. It's adorable. And it's like it's so and it's legitimately the one thing I would get a tattoo on, and I had a dream about it.
You got to do it now.
I know. I was gonna say like you haven't gotten it yet because it's something.
I don't want a tattoo. Like that's the one thing that if I had to get a tattoo, I would get that, but I don't actually.
I think you do.
Yeah,
I think you subconsciously want one.
I love it. Someone asked me, they were like, I don't understand the concept of tattoos. And I was like, in my mind, I love this thing so much that I literally have to have it embedded into my skin. Like, like it's like walking around with with art, first of all. So my biggest piece goes from my side all the way down my thigh. And like, it's this gorgeous, like warrior princess who looks kind of like me with the nose ring and everything. And she's wearing a skull on her head and she's surrounded by wildflowers. And to me, it's like, that's how I see myself. like, I mean, I present all cutesy sometimes, but like, that's how I see myself, you know? And so like that empowers me, even though nobody else sees it most of the time, you know, unless I'm wearing like a bathing suit. But like, you know, it's like empowering because I'm like, I have this badass piece of art that was created for me because nobody else has this one. It was created for me and like by someone that I really like. And so it's kind of cool because now I have that, you know, I'm moving away and he was my friend. And even though I probably will never see him again, I have his art on me forever. And so it's
That's
like,
so cool.
yeah. And other things too. Like music is a huge deal to me. And I literally have like this whole sleeve of like 21 Pilots tattoos. So like, it's just, I don't know. Instead of making a t-shirt, I get a tattoo, you know?
Yeah. Potato.
You'll get it.
I really like
if you get it on the back of your, this one didn't hurt that much.
Mm-mm.
So if you got back here, I don't think it'd be that bad.
Yeah, I mean, I have this one, which it's embarrassing. It's awful. But that one didn't really hurt. And I thought it would. The only one that really hurt was when I got the big one on my side when he was shading in right on the hip bone.
Oh, the bone. Like any kind of bony, like ribs and top of your foot. Top of your foot's supposed to be
the bone. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
I would not want to get one on top of my foot either. Anyway.
No, they fade really fast. Don't get one on your foot.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Fading.
Oh yeah. Same with hands, like hand tattoos. They fade really fast too.
Yeah.
Because you wash your hands a lot and you rub it on stuff and yeah. So
yeah.
You know. My first tattoo is actually a literary tattoo.
So which one is it?
It's on my shoulder and it says, "I carry your heart with me" by E.E. Cummings.
Oh, okay. I was like,
I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart. I like that poem. Yeah. So
see, literature affecting tattooing.
Yeah.
Tattoos. Yes, it's a thing. So mine is from a book too, and then the other stuffs are just people's names.
I could do a whole video on tattoos. I really could. I love tattoos.
Yang Yang Tattoo Club.
Oh my gosh. We should start a thread. We should just start a thread on Twitter. Everybody post your tattoos. I mean, I'll post all except one.
Sorry, that would probably be a very...
Don't post all your tattoos.
Does Andrew Yang have any tattoos? Here's a question. There's a question. Put it up. See what people say.
Do you want me to do it now? I'll do it now.
You do whatever you want. I'm just saying. I'm not demanding you do it. I'm just saying, hey, that'd be a good thing to put up. I put up way too much random stuff on Twitter.
I have a lot of drafts. I'll add that to my drafts.
Bam. So when you want I'm curious if I don't think he does. I don't think.
Do you think he would show it?
I don't know, because if you look at his pictures from high school, Andrew would have tattoos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I don't know, if you were to look at me from high school, that Megan would not have had tattoos.
Yeah, but I'm trying to say, like, him now, you wouldn't think so, but him back then, yes. Yeah. So
he would have gotten one at that point.
Oh, like gotten one, like when he was.
The only thing is that but he's older, so like at that point it was older times, and like tattoos have become a lot more mainstream.
Yeah.
Now, so he could have missed the boat in a way, you know.
But there is an argument for it either way. So I'm curious if he does, because it's very possible that he does. And if he did, what would it be?
I'm surprised no one's asked him that.
I'm surprised too.
Yeah.
I feel like we have a lot of people in the Yang Gang with tattoos. I am surprised someone hasn't asked.
Well, that's the thing. It could be either way. So I'm like, I want to know now.
Do it, Greg. Do it.
Cover on my shoulder. Wow. Wait, so which cover? The one with Andrew Yang's face on it, or the old one?
The old one would actually be kind of a dope tattoo.
The old one would actually be like the guy, just that profile of the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now that one's the one available on Amazon.
Well,
if anyone I kind of wanted that one. It's like, to me, like, as much as I love the guy, this feels like the movie cover of the book.
Yeah, yes.
You know, I'm like, I want the original cover.
Yeah.
I want the real cover. You can put his picture on the back. I'm just kidding. It's endearing. He's got the little Andrew smirk.
Or
the hair.
on normal. What's the original cover?
It's really cool. It's like a really dope cover, I think.
I think so too.
It's very eye-catching in a way that this one's eye-catching because of the colors. Like the yellow catches your eye. There's like the orange and yellow tones here, so that you're like bam. But the other one catches your eye in like a totally different way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another thing I was going to tell you, Ellers. So sometimes the way I pick a book, and I think you can do this on Audible too, because they usually have like the book covers on there, is literally a book cover will just catch my eye. And I'm like, there is something about that I know I'm going to like.
Yeah.
So that's sometimes how I pick my fiction books.
I mean, like that's how they're making those covers. Like it's a big deal. So it's marketing.
I'll get some more fiction because I also have 5 Audible credits that I need to use on something. So kind of force myself because if you go too hard in the nonfiction, it can be like draining and it's not very, I don't know, especially like this is a very good book, but the reality of a lot of what he's talking about can be depressing if you don't have the right mentality. So I need to balance it out more.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we've been on for about 2 hours.
That's it. My family's snapping, so I'm cool.
You're
Like,
fine.
they're like, we're taking a nap.
My
I'm like,
computer's
all right.
about to die, so I should probably get going.
Yeah, I'm surprised mine's fine. But yeah, Ellers, we should invite you on again. This was fun.
Yeah.
Whenever you want, especially in quarantine time, I am here.
Okay.
I have my little setup, and I'm good. So whenever you want.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your input.
It's our goal to have the happy hour once a month as a check-in to talk about whatever.
Yeah.
So you're always welcome.
Glad to be here. Thanks for the invite. I was gonna just jump on and comment real quick. I didn't mean to invade your whole episode.
No, this was awesome. Honestly, thank you. This was great.
Yeah.
I feel like we all learned a lot, and I think a lot of what we talked about was important, not just the Andrew Yang stuff, but I also think like fiction versus nonfiction and all of that. I think it was a really great conversation, and even though it's like 2 hours long, I hope people can still watch this.
People like the longer stuff, especially in Yang Yang. They're like, make the long, because especially with everybody at quarantine right now, they're just like dying for something to listen to.
Put it on the background.
It's true, exactly. That's what I will do.
Well, that's awesome.
Cool.
So this was great. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
And I guess
let us know if you want to jump on for the meeting too when we actually discuss the book.
Yeah, let us
know.
Full
force.
When are you doing it? Just let me know when, and then just give me a heads up.
Yeah. May 2nd. We haven't announced it yet, but it's May 2nd. Yeah.
2 days before Star Wars Day.
We'll announce it soon.
Yeah, 2 days before Star Wars Day. Yeah.
That's exactly what we thought.
Exactly.
Totally.
I know. I pulled that out of your brain.
Yeah.
I will say, you know what's funny is that originally Congress was supposed to be back on 4/20, and they changed it to May 4th. So I was like, you guys are just picking days that we'll remember.
Yeah.
It's true. That's I had the same thought. I was like 4/20 and May the 4th. Like,
yes.
Not an accident.
You and I, Ellers, we're on the same page.
I just have super nerdy. I'm just super nerdy about everything. You see what I have back here? Have I showed you this? It's just all about the nerdy stuff.
Okay. You know what? Okay.
It's loud. Sorry.
No joke. I don't know how we could do this, but if you just wanted to have a time where we come on and talk about Marvel movies, I could do that for hours.
We do that too.
I'm not joking.
I also have I have that podcast too that I need to post more stuff to.
I'm so serious. I love Marvel.
People are like, when are you doing a new episode? I'm like, I don't know. I need to figure something out. But people would listen to it. And if they don't want to listen to it, they'll skip to the next episode.
Look, I have opinions. I have opinions.
Yeah, like they keep on.
I haven't watched most of them.
Okay, well,
that's fun.
I'm a huge superhero nerd.
We finally found something we're not the same one.
I know. I'm just like a huge superhero nerd. Like I love it. I don't really read comics too much.
Yeah.
But I love superhero movies. I like Marvel more than DC, but I could also go on about DC. For example, Suicide Squad alone, I could probably talk about for 3 hours and how they fucked that up. Like I could literally just like go on. I could.
Any DC conversation is going to be how they fucked it up.
I'm so like I'm
That's
serious. I'm not
all the
laughing.
DC.
There's a Nerd Writer episode on that. Just
On
so
Suicide
you know.
Squad?
On DC.
How
versus
DC
he has
the
an
whole thing.
episode on DC versus Marvel.
Ooh,
And I watched
guys,
it.
You guys.
So
DC,
just check that out.
They could do so much better. Anyways, if you ever want to do that, we
can do that whenever you want, because I also need to record more for my other stuff. Like I've been so disconnected. Like seriously, like with everything that's going on, like I've just taken a step back from like recording and stuff just because my mind's been all over the place. So thank you guys for having me on and getting me back into the habit, because I literally have a podcast and a YouTube channel that are just sitting there that I should probably do something with. So
that's kind of funny. All right, I know I keep saying we're gonna go, but last thing.
Good.
So actually, my Twitter handle is accidentally me, and the reason it is that is because my Instagram, which I used to be big on Instagram, which I feel like a lot of Yanging were, and then we all migrated to Twitter, was accidentally inspired. And it's because I'm a huge believer in like having conversations with people about everything and anything, and then it just inspires without even trying. Like, and that's where my handle comes from. Sometimes people ask me, they're like, "That's not your name." I know that's obviously not my name. My name isn't accidentally, but that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Well, no, exactly. Yeah. I came on to talk about a
that.
random graph in Yang's book, and now I've found out why I'm so lenient towards nonfiction than fiction, and that I need to get back into that. That wasn't planned or on purpose, but now I've learned something about myself. Thank you. And now I need to work on that part. So yes, I agree.
Cool.
All right, cool. Okay,
awesome.
So I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream. So for you guys that stuck with us the whole time, it looks like maybe 2 of you. Thank you, and we hope you guys had fun. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye, guys.